Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Christine and today I'm so excited to finally be able to share with you the project that I've made for the 2020-2021 Graphic 45 Brand Ambassador Audition. I chose the very colorful Fashion 4 paper collection to make this journal, planner, and scrapbook. This book allows you to do all these things in one. There are journaling spots, places for lists, planning projects, and even adding photos, all in one book. Let's take a quick peek inside before we get to the full tutorial of how you can make this book yourself. The first thing we're going to do today is take the sheets from the 8x8 paper pad and cut out all of the different elements. I have already done this with the months up to November and December, so we're going to cut out November and December together. This is the month of November and all the different pieces cut apart. And this is the December page cut apart. Next, you'll want to select the 5 pieces of patterns and solids that you want to use for the signature. What you're going to do is cut each piece to 8.5 inches tall by 12 inches wide. And then we are going to score each piece at 6 inches along the 12-inch side. The next step is to print the inserts onto whatever color cardstock you choose for your album, and each month will have multiple pages that will make up the elements inside of the planner. They are month specific because of the calendar, and they have a certain amount of daily boxes to write in as well. Once you are finished cutting each of the months out, you'll have several pieces. You'll have 2 boxes that are this size, what I'm working on in project ideas. You'll have the larger calendar month. You'll have smaller boxes to do goals, birthdays, memories, and to do. And then you will have 4 larger weekly inserts and 1 smaller insert to finish out the week. We will be ready next to put together the signatures for each of the months, and each of them will contain 2 months per signature. Now we're going to assemble the pages for November and December. We're going to do 1 month at a time. So the first thing we're going to do is take one of the strips that's left over from the 12 by 12 pattern and solids, whichever color paper you choose. I chose the purple because I think it goes well with the November and it emphasizes the color in the image. So I'm going to take the paper strip and use my paper cutter, and I'm going to cut one piece 5 3/4 inches by 3 1/4 inches. Then I'm going to trim this down to 4 1/2. So I now have 2 pieces. That will be the perfect size to mat my card and my month tag. We're going to go ahead and glue those together. Once those pieces are matted, we're going to center them on the page, and then we're going to glue those down. And that's the first page of the signature. For the next page, we're going to need the monthly calendar, the cut-aparts with the woman and the cut-apart with the saying, and the birthdays box. And they are going to be glued down like that. What you need for the third page is the week with the numbers 1 through 7, the November 1 through 7 box, and one of the border strips, which we are going to trim to fit the page. For each of the weekly inserts on this blank box here, I chose to put some of the pattern and solids papers in each of the boxes, so I'm going to cut one piece for each of the 4 weekly inserts. And I'm going to use the same color as I used for the first page. So what I'm going to do is cut this whole entire strip to just slightly under 2.5 inches. And I'm going to cut this into just under 1.5 inch rectangles. Set aside the other 3, and the first one we are going to glue into this box here. Going to the next page, we are going to need the box 8 through 14, November 8 through 14, and another one of the border strips, which we will cut again to be the same length as the page. Now we're going to take another one of the purple rectangles and glue it here. Moving on to the next page, we are going to use the image. There's two of them that are together, and then the what I'm working on box, and then the goals in the small to-do box. And they are going to go like this, but for the image we are going to use photo corners. That way if we want to add a photo later, we can choose just to add the photo, flip it over, and then our photo will be displayed during the month as well. So I'm going to start by putting the photo squares on each of the corners. I'm going to straighten them and try not to shove them down all the way, because then it can be really hard to get the image out whenever you want to remove it to put the photo in. So I like to leave it just slightly bigger than the actual image, just so that there's some room for it to slide, and try to get them to be as straight as you can. And then we're going to center this on the top of the page. Then we're going to glue down the rest of the boxes. On the next page, we're going to use the project ideas box at the top, and this image here in the middle. And again, we're going to use photo corners to attach the image so that we can add our own photo later if we choose to. We're going to leave the bottom here blank because I like the designer paper. I didn't want to cover all of it up, and also we can go in later if we want to and add some smaller photos. There's just some space here to do anything that you choose once you get to that week or that month. On the next page, we're going to start with the weeks again. So we're going to take week 15 to 21. We're going to use the 3 sayings, and we're going to use 15 to 21 here, and we're going to use one of the purple rectangles there. On the back side, we are going to continue with the weekly boxes, 22 to 28, and we're going to add the last border strip, and we're going to trim it down to the size of the paper. Moving on to the next page, we are going to use the final 2 boxes for the month. And then we're going to use the memories and the larger to-do box. And we're going to place them on the page like this. The final page for the month is going to have a large blank photo mat with photo corners for a photo. This cut apart card will be glued down here, and then in this spot here we're going to use one of the stickers in just a moment. I'm going to take another piece of the purple that we used for the pictures on the front to mat, and I'm going to mat one of the stickers that goes with this month. So on the sticker sheet, that's this sticker here. So I'm going to peel the sticker off. And then I'm going to trim around the sticker to make it smaller. So that I'm left with this, and I'm going to glue this piece here. December will start here. So if we start at the beginning, we have the tag and the main picture. And then we have the monthly calendar, the birthday list, the 2 small pieces. We've got the first 7 days, 8 through 14. We've got goals and to-dos, just a little list of what you're working on, another image that is a photo mat. We've got project ideas to list because obviously this is for a crafter, so we definitely want to have room to write down project ideas. Another one of the cut aparts that can be used as a photo mat. And then we go week 15 or days 15 to 21, 22 to 28, 29 and 30, and some smaller journaling boxes as well. And then another larger area for a photo, you can do some journaling here. This is kind of like a month in review as well. My idea was to have like a photo of the month that you could place here that sums up the month before moving on to the next month. Now we are going to assemble December in the same way we assembled November. I forgot to cut the pieces of cardstock for the weekly inserts, so I cut them now and I'm going to go back in and add them to the weekly inserts. So you need 4 that are cut to just below 2.5 by just below 1.5 rectangles. And we're going to glue these to each of the weekly inserts in that last blank box. So now we have the signature for November and December finished. We'll do a quick flip through. We've already done November, so we'll go a little quicker through November. And so for December, again, we have the December and the first picture, the calendar, the birthdays and the images, the weekly insert, goals and to do, what I'm working on, the photo mat, another photo mat, project ideas, a blank area for another picture or journaling or whatever you choose to put there, the third weekly insert, and the fourth weekly insert, the final insert for journaling, memories, and to do. And then on the back page, another large photo mat, a spot for journaling, and the sticker. So each of the signatures is made the same exact way. So you will have 6 of these total when you are finished. The last thing I'm going to do to finish the signature is to trim the edges of the pages. If you look, you can see that they are sticking out. So I'm going to take each one individually and I'm just going to cut just a little tiny bit off using my paper trimmer. The first one does not need to be trimmed, so we're going to go to the second page and start with it. And I'm just going to cut off a little tiny bit. You're not going to see a whole lot, so just a tiny bit. And we're going to do that on the front and the back, or each side, I guess, of the paper. And then I like to put it back into the book and line it up to make sure that it does not stick out. And next we'll go on to the third page and do the same thing. But each one you'll need to take a little bit more off because the pages are sticking out just a little bit further. And now you have a signature that has all the pages nice and even. The first thing we're going to do is start on the cover. So we are going to need a piece of cardstock that measures 6 1/4 by 8 1/4 inches. The whole thing will be covered so you won't see it, so it doesn't matter what color it is. I chose black because my front cover is going to have black on it as well. You're also going to need 31 squares of the design paper, and the squares are going to be 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. I have chosen 5 different colors. You can pick as many as you want, but we're alternating the different pieces. So we're going to cut the squares and we're going to glue them on to make them look almost like a quilt. So we're going to start, the first one is only going to be a part of the square, so I'm only going to put glue on one part of it so it doesn't stick to my photo mat. You want to make sure that the tips of the square line up with the edge here and the edge here. And then we are going to take the next one and it will be the same way, only part of it will be used, and we're going to trimming off the excess that hangs over. Again, you'll want to line up the corners with the edge of the paper. Then you're going to start on the second row, and you're going to start them here, again lining them up. And I'm just going to continue across the rows until I fill up the whole entire page. Once you've finished gluing all of the squares on, you should have a piece that looks similar to this. And what we're going to do next is trim off the pieces that we don't want. So I'm going to flip it over on the back. I'm going to use my paper trimmer, and I'm just going to cut right along the edge of the black piece of cardstock. And now that it's trimmed, you should have a piece that looks like this. To finish my cover, I decided to add stitching with my sewing machine, so I ran a zigzag stitch along all of the seams where the papers come together in each of the directions. If you don't have a sewing machine or you don't want to do this step, you can leave this out, or if you want to hand draw stitching, or if you want to hand stitch, you can do that as well. The next step is to select the fabric you want to use for your covers. I have selected a faux black leather fabric, and I purchased this at Hobby Lobby. You need to cut two pieces, 15 inches long, 9 inches high. We're going to set one piece aside for now, and we're going to work with the piece that's going to be our outside cover. We're going to take the piece that we just made, and we are going to glue this to the front of our cover, and then we're going to stitch around it. So the cover, we want to have about 1/8 of an inch on the side before the cover starts, and it's going to be about 1/2 of an inch around each of the edges. So I am going to use Fabri-Tac to glue this down, just so that it can hold before I stitch around it. Next, I'm going to take this piece to my sewing machine and stitch all the way around the outside edge using the zigzag stitch similar to what I did here. If you choose not to do the sewing, you don't have to do this next step. And next we are going to add some decorations to the front. I have cut out the year on my Cricut. So I have 2021 because this will be my planner journal for 2021, and I've taken some of the stickers from the collection and backed them on cardstock, and I chose to use black so that it would match the cover. So this is the main image that I want to use. I love the colors in the collection, so I love that it says "You are colorful." I took the frame, I left out the little box that was in the middle, and I just matted it on black cardstock as well. And I took this little blue button to give it some blue, along with the saying "Enjoy the little things," and this sticker here with the pink flowers. So you can rearrange the pieces however you choose, and you can use whichever ones you prefer, but these are the ones that I'm going to use, and I am going to glue them down like this. Next, we need to cut 2 pieces of cardboard or chipboard to make our front and back covers a little bit sturdier, and we're going to cut both pieces 6 1/8 inches wide and 8 5/8 inches long. And on the front cover, on the right edge, we are going to come into the halfway point on the 8 5/8 inches, and we're going to make a dot so we know where to put the brad for our closure. We're going to use a buckle closure, so it's going to go like this, and we're going to attach it to the actual cardboard so that it will actually be hidden underneath the fabric once we sew our covers together. So the next step is to put the brad through the hole. And this will be the front cover. So then we're going to set aside the back cover, and we're going to take our actual cover that we've sewn, and we're going to put this like this so that the buckle is in the center, but the brad is hidden underneath the material. So I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to glue this so that when it flips over, it will be flush, the leather will be flush with the actual buckle. We are going to take the piece for the back, and we are going to glue it to the back, leaving about 1/8 of an inch around the edges. And this is what the outside of the cover looks like, and this is what the inside looks like when we're done. Next, we need to cut 2 pieces of fabric that are 1/2 inch wide and 5 3/4 inches long to make the closure that goes into the buckle. The next step is to glue the raw edges of the pieces together, and then we are going to blanket stitch around the entire piece. I'm going to punch a hole in this. It is at about 3/8 of an inch in, and I'm going to just punch this so that it goes through both layers. And then I'm going to do the same thing on my back cover. I'm going to punch a hole where I am going to put a brad through this. So I want this to be about 3/4 of an inch long, tucked to the back. So I am going to poke my hole in the center. It's 4 1/2 inches because this is 9 inches. So at 4 1/2 inches in, I'm going to poke my hole, and I've already done this off camera. And I'm going to take my brad and put it through on here. I'm gonna take some glue. Glue around this. just to hold it firmly in place. So now we have the buckle on the front and the strip to fasten it on the back cover. Next, we are going to start working on the inside piece that we're going to sew our signatures to. For the next step, we need the second piece of fabric for the cover, the template 2 that we just made, and 2 pieces of fabric for the inside pockets cut at 3.5 inches wide and 9 inches high. So the first thing we're going to do is center our whole template onto the fabric. The fabric is right side up, so this is the faux leather and this is the side that will be glued to the inside of the book. So make sure you have your fabric in the right direction. Take the template and center it. So my fabric is 15 inches long, so we're going to center this at 7.5, and I taped it down so that it doesn't move because I'm going to be punching all of these holes for where I'm going to sew in my signature. So I want to make sure that it doesn't shift or move when I do that. Once you have that taped down, we are going to first glue in our pockets. And so we are going to put one on the front cover here and one on the back cover as well. And we're only going to glue around the 3 sides so that we can tuck things in here. We are going to punch all of the holes. Again, I'm going to use an owl, or AWL, owl, to do this next step. And to put something underneath of this is really helpful. So I am going to use, I have some batting that I have from quilting, so I'm just going to place that underneath. You can also use something like a phone book or a cardboard box, anything that you don't mind having holes punched through. So we're going to go through each one of these dots and we're going to poke a hole in them. So I'm going to start in the center one just because I think it'll be easier. Once you have all of the holes poked through, you can go ahead and remove your template, and you should be able to see on yours all of the dots for where you're going to sew your signatures, which we'll do next. The next thing we need to do is prepare the signatures to be sewn into the book. So you're going to take one entire signature, and I have the November-December one that we created together. And you want to make sure, open all the pages together and that they are creased together. And I like to place paper clips on either side, on the top and the bottom, just to hold them in place because we don't want them to move while we poke the holes. So again, I'm going to place this on my piece of batting, and we're going to take the template that we made earlier. It has top marked on it because we want to make sure that we're punching on all of them in the same exact place. So we're going to line this up in the crease, and it's easier if you fold it up a little bit before you punch the holes. So you make sure that it's down in the fold, and then you're going to take your awl and you are going to poke down through all of the layers on each of the holes. And once you're done, you should be able to see holes going through all of the different layers of the signature. You're going to repeat the process with all of the rest of the signatures that you've made in the same exact way. The next thing we're going to do is sew in our signatures. I've already sewed in the first 5, so we will do the last one together. What we are going to do is a basic 5-hole pamphlet stitch. So we're going to start from the back side of the fabric going through the middle hole, then we'll come up through the pamphlet, down through the next hole, up through this one, down through, up through, down through, and up through. And down through one more time, and then the threads will be on the back, and then we'll tie it in a knot. So I am going to first prepare my thread, and you are going to need about 2.5 lengths of the booklet. So I just roughly measure it so I have a little bit of extra thread so I'm not really struggling at the end. And I personally like to use some wax on my thread so that it doesn't knot whenever I am pulling it through the holes, and it's really easy to work with whenever you are stitching. I'm using embroidery thread, but you can use any type of thread that you want. Just make sure it's sturdy and heavy duty so that it doesn't break. And use whatever size needle you feel comfortable using. So to start stitching, we're first going to go through the back side of the fabric, and we're going to go into the middle hole first. And a trick that I learned from another YouTube video was to take a paper clip and tie the thread once around the paper clip, not a double knot, just once, so that the thread doesn't pull through the hole in the back. The paper clip will stop it. So once you pull, the paper clip won't go anywhere. So once you have your thread through the material, you're going to open your signature and go up through the middle hole and then down through either of the side holes next to it. Make sure that you go through all the layers with your thread as you're sewing. Then you're going to go down through the hole in the material. And I don't pull it tight until the end because I find it's easier to see the holes as I'm stitching. And then up through the hole at the bottom. And up through the signature. Then we're going to go back down through the next hole, and be careful that you don't go through the thread that you have already stitched there. And then we're going to go back down through the material, again making sure that you don't go through the thread but beside the thread. We're going to go back up through the hole in the middle, again being careful that you don't go through the thread, and then up through the signature, down through the next hole in the signature, and then down through the hole in the fabric, up through the last hole, and up through the signature in the last hole. Down through the one just above it, and then down through cover, making sure that you don't go through the threads. Now that we have all of our stitches complete, we can hold on to the paper clip. Mine's tangled around the other parts. Okay, so hold on to the paper clip. And pull the threads tight. You can also open this up and check to see how tight they are. If they're not as tight as you want them to be, you can pull the stitches to help them to tighten up. And then once you have the stitches tightened, go down through and you're going to tie a knot. Then you're going to take the paper clip off. Again, make sure the threads are nice and tight. And with the two tails, you're going to tie a couple of knots to hold this secure. Once you're done, trim off the tails, and we have all of our signatures in here. This will be covered up with the actual cover, so we won't see this, and we're going to put some glue on this so that these stitches will hold nice and tight as well. So once you're done, you will have all of your signatures sewn into the album. And it's ready to be put in the cover. The next step is to glue the covers together. I'm going to use Fabri-Tac to do this, and right now I have a stack of heavy books holding the cover in place and the pages propped up because I'm going to start on the front cover. Right here I'm going to glue just this seam first to hold it in place, and once it's dry I'm going to slowly go around the entire thing, starting with the front cover, making sure that it's glued down, then I'll go through the rest of it. Allow the cover to dry, and when you're done, you're going to blanket stitch around the entire outside edge of the book. Once you have finished blanket stitching around the entire book, the final thing you want to do is take your awl and punch holes into the band for the closure. I've already done this. I've punched 3 holes into mine. I have it in the bottom hole, but whenever the book expands, as I'm adding things in it, there is room for it to grow. So you do that as your final step. And then the other thing that I did, which is optional, you can do it if you choose, is I added a few other extra touches to the outer cover. First of all, I chose to decorate the spine using this faux leather trim that I got at Hobby Lobby. I love these flowers and I thought it looked really cute, and I also liked that it brought out the white that I used for the stitches. And then I added one of those flowers to the front cover just so that it has some matching detail. The only part of the book that I did not decorate is the back. It's just completely plain so that it will lay flat. Another detail that I added into the book, inside of it, I added a bookmark. This is a ribbon bookmark. I just used some ribbon that I bought again at Hobby Lobby. I punched a hole using my crop-a-dowel and I tied a knot here with the ribbon just so that it is long enough to stick out of the book. And I added one of those flowers that matches the front cover. That way whenever I am using my planner, I can add a bookmark in, and whenever I go to open it, I know exactly which page to go to. The last little detail that I added were these little tiny charms here on the spine. So I added at the bottom a heart that says made with love and a little teeny tiny flower. I love spine charms. I just think they're really cute, and I thought it'd give it another extra touch. So I added 2 of those. These are, again, optional ideas for you. If you don't want to make the book using those, you can leave those completely out and you still have a beautiful book made the way that you want it.